Studio Lou. I'm back again, I think with journal number 7 in this Journal Gnome series. I am doing my very best to get through this series. I've been so busy this week that it's been difficult to get the series posted. So I will jump right into this book. So this book was made in a vintage art encyclopedia, and it has been fabric bound with 2 signatures. And the front and back are painted with this lovely teal sort of color. I'm just calling this one the Laughing Gnome. And above the signatures, I've actually sewn in a bookmark with this lovely metal arrow. And on the front, there's this actual amazing green kind of fur. It's not real fur, obviously. I did not catch a grass monster or anything, but it's this really nice, soft fur, and it just kind of looks like maybe 3 little plant kind of bushes or something. I just thought it was super funny and nice. And the fabric on the spine actually is grass, so it all goes together. And there's a couple of these cute little toadstool beads that are tied to the bottom of the signatures. So you open this book up. It's 2 signatures, if I didn't already mention that. And on the inside is original book imagery. This is a gnome hanging on a swing. If you did not see my original gnome tome video, I recommend you check it out, where I talk about where I got the books for this series and all the images. This is eco-dyed paper that I've dyed myself with plants, and cabbage dyed paper. And then there's this little insect here, and there is definitely some fabric elements in these journals. I have sewn some earthy and sort of gnome-themed fun fabrics down the side of some of the pages. This is a vintage bird illustration. And then on this is a fun little sort of journal element. So on both sides, there's a pocket. So on this side, it's a couple little gnomes talking to each other, one sitting on a toadstool. And then behind it is this lovely magazine page that is, it's all about vintage collections of rolling pins. And I thought the books themselves, the gnome books, are very much about the domestic lifestyle of gnomes. And so I thought that was just a nice relevant page to include in the journal. And in here is a journal tag with a little chipmunk on the back. The front is collaged, and it's this gnome who's holding some, what looks to be like rice or seeds. Some birds are eating it, and a goose is trying to get some. And that just pops in there. Then on the flip side, we have an original book page from this art encyclopedia. I like to pay homage to the books where I can. And then there's this little couple of gnomes here, and they look like they're having a little giggle. And this is just some floral paper, and this is a large journal tag. And down here we have this cute little toad, and up here is a fabric butterfly, and then this really sweet image of these cute little mushroom fairy kind of people. This is coffee dyed paper. It's an image of a boat. Cabbage dyed watercolor paper. This is a belly band, and it's from the original gnome book, and it's sort of a silhouette of a gnome walking through some thrushes and trees. And it says, if his affairs do not cause him to spend the night elsewhere, the gnome returns home shortly before sunrise, where preparations for the main meal are in progress. There are only 2 meals a day, not counting snacks of milk or porridge. So very sweet. Legends of the Gnomes, which I love. And this is on some beautiful botanical magazine paper, and it's just kind of a flip up. And inside is this large journal card, and it has this little gnome here, and he's just kind of sectioned off from the dark woods here. And then on this side, we have a belly band of what looks like a wooden carving of a gnome. And over here is just some, this is a scrapbook paper that kind of looks like a crushed or burnt like faux leather or something of that nature. And then inside the belly band, there's this large journal card, and it's a gnome who's hiding in a tree, and this owl stole his cap. I was walking the other night at dawn in a local cemetery where I walk a lot in the graveyards around these times because there's not a lot of people. And I saw a huge red-tailed hawk just sitting on top of a gravestone, and realized that they're there hunting because there's so many squirrels in the graveyards. And so my husband was pushing our little one, and he'd come up to me while I was sort of trying to be a wild huntress and just stalking this bird, this hawk, to try to take her picture. So I was being very quiet, and so all of a sudden my 3-year-old came rushing along, and after I'd gotten some pictures, thankfully, she sort of scared the bird off. And then my husband told me he'd just seen the craziest things. So I noticed as I was walking up to where the bird was that the squirrels were making an almost crying sound. Like I saw 2 or 3 of them on the ground, and they were running into the trees, and they were making like a crying sound. It was quite strange, and I guess it's like a warning that they were doing because this hawk, wants to eat them for dinner. So my husband saw one squirrel fall about 20 feet from like a tall pine tree, and he hit the top of a gravestone, and he just kind of like, he laid there for a minute and kind of like, winced, and then he sort of got up and shook himself off and ran right back up the tree. So I'm hoping he's okay, but it was quite an experience. So anyhow, I digress. So this page has these little mushroom people, and they're sitting on some toadstools, these little children, and behind it there is just some sort of nice vintage woodland paper. And inside is this journal card that's on music paper that's been cabbage dyed. And there's a lovely sticker of some mushrooms and a gnome in the background with these birds. He looks like he's trying to hold a broom, or maybe shake out a scarecrow. And then some birds up here. And yeah, there's a lot going on in that. There's so many elements to some of these little pieces of ephemera. I really do take my time with them. And then just some nice fabric. It's kind of reminiscent of gnomes. This is a coloring book page from the story of Pandora. It's an absolutely beautiful book with lots of like mushroom and beautiful line illustrations of nature. And this is just a little botanical, and this fabric has little bees on it. This side we have an original image from this art encyclopedia. I do try to use those from here and there. So I made a pocket with this one, and this gnome is just sort of standing on this little coliseum. And back here we have some skunks. And inside we have this journal card, and it says the gnome feels the responsibility to supply small rodents with food from his storage during the long severe winter, and he's just feeding this little mouse. I love the idea of gnomes. And then this is a vintage bird card. How nice to think there would be little creatures just taking care of our wildlife. And then this is another magazine, plant magazine about pitcher plants. And on this side, this is just a little flip out that you can write on. And on the front is this cute fox. It's from a vintage illustration book about nature. And inside is this journal tag of this gnome sitting under some mushrooms and a snail kind of peeking down on him. And this is cabbage dyed paper, coffee dyed paper. And this is sort of an image of a boat. And here we have this little pocket that is a gnome, and he's found 2 deers that have tangled up their antlers. So he's got his little hand saw, and he's trying to separate them. And inside we have this deer journal card, or tag rather. And all of this, they're all from the original gnome, vintage gnome book. Same as on this side. So there is more of that rolling pin paper, and here is a side tuck with a gnome in the casing of a chestnut, and it says, with half of a chestnut husk they pretend to be hedgehogs and frighten the field mice. Gnome girls like to play with fluffy willow catkins, dressing them up as dolls or animals and putting them to bed. So pretty cute. There's a little willow catkin there. And inside is a journal card, and it's pretty cute. On the back, there is this image of a bird, and on the front, it's this gnome, man and woman, and then the little butterfly there, and it says, greetings, farewells, and good nights are expressed by rubbing noses. And over here we have a gnome dancing with a pig, and an owl, cabbage dyed paper, some insect drawings, and more eco dyed paper. Both sides, beautiful eco dyed paper. And in the middle, just a little bonus, I have included this envelope that's been made from music paper from the gnome book. And inside, we have a journal card. And it's collage, and it has this lovely bird on the front. And it's coffee dyed paper on the back. And it just tucks right on in there for writing on. And you just close the envelope and tuck it right in. And this side we have a pocket with a little sort of gnome person chatting with some bunnies. And inside is this journal card. It says, for softer articles, the gnome is permitted to take as much loose hair from a rabbit's nest as he requires. So I guess that's the benefit of being a friend to woodland creatures, is they give you things. And then over here is just some beautiful fall corn and a hawk and two little gnome people carrying a mushroom. Some nice green paper and a botanical, and then some cabbage and coffee dyed, this is large format encyclopedia paper, and some fish there. And then a crow. This is a vintage illustration book, and a crow and an owl having a little conversation. This is avocado dyed paper. It's like a brownish pink. Some nice blue contrasting paper. Matches the shirt of this gnome. That just makes me happy. And then the red goes with the red lace on this journal card. So the pocket is actually an original art image from the art encyclopedia. So you see these little, looks like sort of Greeks in trees. So that's a piece of art. And then these is images of different bees. And inside is a journal card. This little gnome, he's like looking in the doorway of a human, and some botanicals here. And there's a bird on the back and some mushroom stamping along the bottom. And this fabric has bees on it. And on this side is another pocket that is an original image from the art book that this journal is in. And this little gnome just sort of looks like he's on a tourism, sort of a little tourism day. And then this is about beehives. And inside is this large journal tag with some little critters looking at a gnome while he's doing something with flowers. And some green paper with a gnome woman with this little caterpillar on her hat. And then this is a fun part of the journal. So one of the elements of this journal series, some of the books have a pop-up in them because you'll see, I think it's maybe book 4, book 5. It's actually made inside of a vintage Enid Blyton Naughty the Gnome book. So I repurposed the pop-ups that I could, and I used the journal cover for a journal. And so this is one of those pop-ups, and there's Naughty the Gnome dancing with a teddy bear. And then here we have a cat and a bear dancing, and a bear and a sailor dancing, and this little band here of this little red sort of tin band, and an elephant dancing with like one of those Weeble kind of wooden dolls. So it's very cute. Nice little element. And then here we have a gnome on a swing, and this little tuck on green paper. And then this is a journal tag that talks about hornet stings. What to do if you get a sting by a hornet. Apply a tourniquet around the wound and allow it, keep it open. And on the back is just some lined paper. And then a honeybee's nest. And more about the honeybee. And then more blue and avocado paper. And this is a belly band with this lovely little bird. And inside is this large journal card of a gnome. Yeah, it looks like he was trying to catch a bunny and the bunny's hopping away. And on the back is a poppy. And on this side we have this hawk, and it's an envelope. This is coffee dyed paper. And inside the envelope is this gnome, beautiful image, sitting underneath this beautiful plant, and on the back a bird. And then here's the other half of that fish and some vintage illustration of these beautiful birds. And then this is an illustration of bean seeds inside a bean. And then an illustration of a bird and some more of that fall beautiful corn. And eco-printed paper. And now we're at the back of the journal. So this is a pocket, and it has this gnome in a snail shell, and it's on original book paper artwork, and it's being pulled by a moth. And then inside we have a couple of things. So behind is this is more of the original gnome illustration of the forest, and then there's this really big journal card, and on the back it says enjoy the little things. And on the front, this is some fabric. This is actually a bird. You see the bird and some flowers and a little gnome here. And this whole thing is collage. It's a nice heavyweight journal card, so you could use it as a writing board. If you needed this more of a stiff surface to kind of write on here, you just do that. Although this journal is actually quite manageable. I don't think you'd really need a writing board with it, but then this is a large journal card as well, and it has it's actually quite interesting because it shows like the gnome concept to an old weaving loom, and I love this idea. I honestly want to do this, and I wonder if anyone ever has. So it shows sort of like today's kind of basic loom that you would have made with like 4 pieces of wood and nails on top and bottom, and then you can weave and weft easily. But then this is a really cute idea. So if you have a tree with a branch that's relatively straight, it's like they do a loop, like loops, almost like slip knot loops, all the way across the branch, and then the strings hang, and they tie another string at the bottom in the same way, and then on each side they've tied a stone to weight it down to keep these threads straight, and there's an arrow showing how you would weave through. And I totally feel like that would really be fun, and it would be a really beautiful picture. So yeah, I might do that. Maybe it'd be a homeschool activity, although I don't know that my 3-year-old would be honestly that easy to do this with, but who loves a challenge? That would be me. So that is this Laughing Gnome journal, and I really love how it turned out. So it will be popping up in the shop hopefully this weekend. In the next couple of days I will get this done. I hope to get these videos up today if I can. Today is Friday. I don't know when you'll be watching this video. It's Friday in the middle of October. So I hope you have a really beautiful day, and all my social media information will be in the description box. As always, I'm Studio Lou basically everywhere on the internet, and thank you so much for watching.